Hey, welcome in, people. Dave Celentano here with Guitar Tricks. We're doing double stops week 2 of 2. And I can already see there's a bunch of comments. Hello, Abang and Theen. Hello, Steve, Peter. Russ got a comment here. What is Russ saying? Hi, Dave and all. Noodling around and dream on by Aerosmith. First part of the intro sounds similar to using the E string 3rd fret. Is that what's occurring? Yeah, that's approximately it, Russ. I believe they're in F minor. You getting that kind of sound? There we go. That whole beginning, those are sort of the double stops. A double stop is essentially we're playing two notes on two separate, one note on one string, one on another, usually adjacent strings, they strings next door to each other. And the stop part just means you're putting your finger and stopping the string at that particular fret. Okay. So the double stops could be major second intervals, minor second intervals, like from the Twilight Zone, remember? Or flat fives. But the common intervals are like fourths, obviously like a power chord could be considered a double stop. Okay, Johnny Be Good. Okay, those are double stops in that. Those are perfect fourths. What you're talking about, Russ, Dream On, that's actually, I didn't even think about that until you just mentioned it there. The strings 1 and 2 that Joe Perry and Brad Whitford are playing, those are double stops because we're just playing them together. And then they're having a pedal point, which is a totally other concept of where you've got a note in the bass or possibly even higher that keeps reoccurring. See how that 3rd string 5th fret is your pedal point. Then we change the double stop to, but keep that C note on the 3rd string 5th fret, right? And then we flip to another different double stop. Still got that C. And then another double stop. And then back. And another double stop. So Dream On, I'm glad you brought that up, Russ. That's a very good example of double stops. Plus a pedal point. The pedal point is that reoccurring note, like toccata and fugue, the fugue part. That 14th fret, 3rd string that I keep tapping, that's a pedal point. 15 on the 2nd. Classical music uses pedal points a lot, especially in Bach's music. But cool. All right, we're going to dig in and talk more about double stops. So everybody, I'm going to read the other couple comments in a sec, but open up the text box underneath your YouTube video and print it out if you want to, or download it, or just open it up, look at it in your computer. It's called Double Stops Week 2 of 2. Okay. And then today we're going to work on some other intervals too. Last week we kind of just did a lot of fourths and fifths. Yeah, it looks like we're doing a lot of fourths and major thirds, but kind of that Chuck Berry sound. We kind of had a few that were like this idea. We got that Asian or Chinese kind of little melody there. We also had the Chuck Berry style. What do I got there? I just did a short little, not quite Chuck Berry's Johnny Be Good, but close to it. And then we also had just trying to use double stops to follow the chords for like a little solo idea. Now today, what we're doing today, everybody, is going to look at major and minor thirds, diatonic, in example 1. And then we're going to take a melody, Malaguena, that Spanish classical melody that I like to play a lot. And I'll show some of my students. I turned it into a good picking exercise. We're going to look at that. And then I'm going to harmonize it on the second string lower, doing a cool harmony of that. You're going to like that. That's example 3. Example 4, today, we're going to look at double stops using sixth intervals, where they're 6 letters apart. They're a little further apart, and I'll explain that in a minute. Okay, that's example 4. And example 5, going to kind of do a little bluesy type of double stop idea using intervals of a 6. Yeah, and then we're going to close out with that example 5. All right, so we got some good stuff coming up here. Let's go ahead and we'll get rolling on that. Let me just read the rest of the comments. All right, Russ says, noodling to finish it out. Cool, cool. Dave Carlton, all right. All right, Dave, glad you could join us, even if it's just 30 minutes. You can always catch the other half of the hour later on, because as soon as my class is done, it automatically bounces to the Guitar Tricks YouTube channel, and then you can just watch it again there. I had an interesting comment on one of the classes I did a few weeks or a couple months back, but someone commented and said, hey, you talk too much in the hour-long class, and it's too long. And he said, why don't you make it shorter and condensed? But I think what that person obviously wasn't watching the live broadcast that I'm doing right now. They're watching it after the fact. So the benefit of this live class is that you can talk to me, ask questions. I can answer them on the spot. If I pre-record, Guitar Tricks has one of our other instructors that does YouTube lessons, but he doesn't do them live. He just creates them and then puts them all together, and they're really short and concise, and I've done a few of those kind of lessons for Guitar Tricks as well on their channel, where they're only like 10 minutes long. Sometimes they're even shorter than that, where it's just really a focused idea for like 10 minutes. And then just, it's not a lot of me talking or the instructor talking. We're explaining stuff, playing, get it done, and move on. But these live classes, that's kind of what it is. I mean, you want to sit here and watch me play guitar for an hour, I'd be happy to do that. I mean, I just got done doing 2.5-hour practice on my nylon string that I put away in the other room, because I'm doing some Spanish guitar work with a buddy of mine. But I just sat here for 2.5 hours straight, no breaks, with my cup of coffee and water, and just metronome work, transcribing a few Al Di Meola and Paco de Lucia licks, and working on them with backing tracks. Okay, so this class is good because it's live and you can talk to me and we can answer questions. That's part of learning guitars. Make sure you're doing it right and you can ask questions. So anyway, enough of me ranting about that. Richard, hello, bud. Bang, cool. Craig's here. All right, Craig. Hello, sir. Thank you. Barry, all right, cool. A couple new names I see. Dave's saying, would be nice to have some Aerosmith on Guitar Tricks to go with your Joe Perry artist study. Yeah, I did. You're right, Dave. I forgot I even did that. I did that a bunch of years ago. I did a Joe Perry artist study. It's not Aerosmith, but it's in the style of Joe Perry and Aerosmith. Yeah, Dave, throw a comment, suggest that to Guitar Tricks, see if they can license some of the songs, because they license all their songs. So it's the site, when they have songs up on the site, they're legal, and it's the artists who wrote the songs getting a royalty. They're not being ripped off. We treat the artists right at Guitar Tricks. We do it legally and correct. All right, cool, Russ. Yep, glad to help you answer that question. Zane's here. All right, cool. Now, Dave's got one more question. David Carlton. How do I know that the key for exercise 1 is not A major? I think all the notes are diatonic to A major too. What do I not know that I don't know? All right, Dave, good question. Let's take a look. So let's get cranking on our example here. All right, so example 1, you know what? Look at the key signature. Okay, Dave, at the beginning of example 1, there's 4 sharps. Okay, the key of A major has 3 sharps, has a F sharp, C sharp, and a G sharp. But this isn't that key. There's 4 sharps. This has an F sharp, C sharp, F sharp, C sharp, G sharp, and a D sharp. That's the key of E major. So I say that after it says example 1, double stops with third intervals on the, or in E major on the top 2 strings. So it starts with the 5th and 4th fret. We're going to have 4th fret on the 1st string and 5th fret in the 2nd string. Now, a good way to finger this, folks, is when the frets are, or when your 2 notes are just 1 fret apart, use your index and middle finger. Okay, let me gonna get that going. And then the next one, we move up 1 fret to the 5th fret, and then the 3rd finger goes to the 7th fret, 2nd string. When the 2 notes are 2 frets apart, pardon me, we're going to use the index and 3rd finger. Now what's happening here, Dave, check this out. I'm going to play example 1. Okay, it sounds like the major scale harmonized. Now, the 2nd string is the E major scale. If you play just the notes on the 2nd string, everybody, frets 5, 7, 9, 10, 12, 14, 16, 17. It sounds like do, re, mi, right? Try backwards. Okay, if we play just the notes on the 1st string, it doesn't sound like the major scale starting from the do. Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. I am a terrible singer, and the band that I play with, the group of musicians, I don't do any singing. Okay, now if we do that on the 1st string and play just the tablature for the 1st string here, folks, it goes 4, 5, 7, 9. Oopsie, I'm sorry. 4, 5, 7, 9, 11, 12, 14, 16, and backwards. See, it doesn't sound like the major scale. It's the harmony for the notes on the 2nd string. Okay? And then when we do harmonies, folks, this is a really cool little tip for you. And bands like Judas Priest would occasionally do harmonies. Iron Maiden's got 2 guitar players. They do a lot of harmonies. If you remember the 80s, one of the 80s rock bands, hair metal bands, Night Ranger, Brad Gillis and Jeff Watson, they did a lot of harmonies together. They're very talented, shreddy guitar players. I believe we still have a couple other songs on Guitar Tricks too. I did Don't Tell Me You Love Me. I think we did Sister Christian. And there's a few others, I believe, that we did. But Don't Tell Me You Love Me kicked my butt, man. That is a hard solo. But that's got some harmony stuff in it. I think at the end of the song, the guys harmonized some ideas together. But doing harmonies in thirds is a very sweet way to get some nice parts. So if you had one guitar play, say if we're doing just the 2nd string, going 5, 7, 9, back to 5, 5, 7, 9, back to 7 and 5, the harmony would be on the 1st string. How do we know that? Well, basically this, folks. You have to do a little thinking. This is good for your noggin, and the theory part, all right? Because it's fun to learn stuff on guitar, absolutely, and just, play a couple fun songs. But at some point, if you want to pull yourself up to the next level in your guitar playing, you got to start going beyond just reading tabs and learning a song and having no idea what the heck you're doing. You just know what fingers and what frets and what strings to put them in. that's cool. But if you want to get a little better, if you want to write songs, if you want to write your own solos, if you want to improvise and make up improvise solos that sound good, that follow the chords, you need to try to understand a little bit of theory. Okay. We don't have to go to college and read the big old thick theory books, right? We don't need to do that, but you got to take baby steps. And we got a ton of theory stuff on Guitar Tricks. In fact, if you look at the top of our comments thread right there, I posted 5 Guitar Tricks links that are a little more advanced double stop lessons. So if you're a Guitar Tricks member, those will always be there, even if after the class is done on Guitar Tricks YouTube channel. When you go into this class, those 5 links will always be at the top of the comments there. And you just log into your Guitar Tricks account, tap those links in YouTube, and it'll take you right to the exact lesson. We got some pretty cool double stop stuff. A lot of country music uses double stops too, and that's what some of those lessons are covering right there. Okay, but basically this, folks, harmonies in thirds sound really good and tasty, and those are they always sound great. A lot of vocalists, when they harmonize with the background vocals or the backup vocals harmonize with the singers, they usually harmonize in thirds or sixths. We're going to talk about sixths today too in a little bit. I just thought of another one. This is one of the tunes we just started to do in the band I'm in. We got a great female singer in the band as well as a male singer, but we're doing Rhiannon from Fleetwood Mac. That little intro part that kind of goes through the song, Lindsey Buckingham, those are intervals of thirds. Minor and major thirds. And then a perfect fourth right there. Okay, so a lot of great examples in music of using double stops and then using thirds. So mostly the Rhiannon is thirds. What we're doing right here, folks, the way you harmonize in thirds is you figure out what notes are in your scale. Okay, the E major scale is, this is where you got to come in. You don't necessarily have to read the notes, but you got to know which notes are sharp. So you got to kind of do a little theory right here and figure this out and write it down on a piece of paper. So don't just grab it and then think you got it. Write it down so you don't forget it. And then when you refer back to try to figure out what the harmonies are, you'll see it. All right. So the notes of the E major scale are E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, and then back to E. Now, if you write those out linear, just E, F sharp, G sharp, A, B, C sharp, D sharp, E, and maybe do another octave of it. So you got not just 7 notes and then the octave, but you got 14 notes plus the octave would be 15 notes. Okay. Now, the way you figure out the harmonies is whatever note you're playing on your guitar. If you start with E, the harmonies are always a third up from whatever note that the lower guitar is playing. All right. So if the lower guitar is playing the E, the harmony would be not the F sharp, it would be the G sharp. That's 3 up. E, F sharp, G sharp. Okay. When I go to F sharp, the harmony for that is 3 up from F sharp in the key of E major that we're in. Okay. So this might, some of you might be getting a headache and your brain's hurting, your head's hurting from all this theory talk. But if you want to understand what you're doing and not just be a puppet that can play something and have no idea what you're doing, you want to do this stuff. And it helps me to write this down on paper so I can literally see it. So not only do I hear it with my ears and I see it on my guitar and I play it on my guitar, but I see it written down on paper and it helps me to understand it. Okay. That's when I went to music school back in 85, 86. It was called GIT back then. Now it's called Musicians Institute. They had us writing out a lot of stuff. All right. That the more ways you can absorb what you're playing, the better. Not just play it on guitar, but listen to it played by somebody else, write it down, dissect it, try to incorporate the concepts into something you're doing, try to find songs that use those, like what Russ said about Aerosmith, Dream On. You know, those are double stops. We're doing Rihanna from Fleetwood Mac. Those are double stops, right? Chuck Berry, a lot of double stops. You know, try to find examples of these in music and then work on them. Try to learn them. Try to incorporate. If you're into writing songs or making up your own solos, try to throw some double stops in your solos. Okay. So that's how you come up with harmonies and thirds. You got to figure out what key you're in, what the notes are of the scale. And then the third would always be whatever note your melody is. Like if we were, well, in fact, let's do this, folks. Let's go down to example 2, and I'll show you how we can write this, figure this out. Okay, so example 2 is on the first string. This isn't double stops, it's not harmonies, but it's Malaguena. Okay, watch this. Okay. You can just do all downstrokes for right now. Okay, so what I'm going to do is harmonize it on the second string lower. So the second string notes, if you go down to example 3, okay, look what I got there. I got open first and second string. Then I got the 4th fret on the first string, 5th fret on the second. Okay, and by the way, Malaguena is in E major. Okay, so all of these notes, most of the notes are in E major. There are a few that fudge it a little bit when we get towards the end of it, but don't worry about that. Let's just learn the ideas here. Okay, then you got 4th fret first string, 5th fret second string, and then we move up to the 7th fret on the first string, and then switch to your 3rd finger on the 9th fret second string. Okay, and we do that twice. Okay, then the next one with the F chord over it, you notice I've got an E chord over the first 2 bars and an F over the second. Okay, actually Malaguena, it starts what sounds like it's in E major because it's played over an E major chord, but it's actually in A minor. Okay, and the only note that doesn't fit in the E major part of that is the G sharp. So what we're doing is actually playing a harmonic minor on the E major part. And if you want to ask me questions about that, go ahead and put them in the chat. If not, I'm just going to keep rolling forward. Then for the F major part, that is resolves back to just A natural minor. So instead of playing G sharp, we'll be playing G like this. The F part is frets 5 on the first string, 6 on the second. And then we go up to 8 on the first, 10 on the second. Then back to 8 on the second, 7 on the first. And then move that back 2 frets to 5 on the first, 6 on the second. Okay. And then we go back to the 5th fret and 3rd fret. 3rd fret on the first string, 5th on the second string. And then move that back 2 frets to the 1st fret first string and 3rd fret on the second string. And then it repeats. A little bit out of tune, I can hear that. There we go. Hear how that sounds like a nice harmony to this? This is Malaguena. And then I'll harmonize it on the lower string. You can just do all downstrokes there, okay? Now, what might be kind of a cool project for everybody, instead of just playing it and going, oh, that sounds cool, figure out what intervals are you doing there. Are you doing a perfect 4th? Are you doing a major 3rd or a minor 3rd? Okay? Those are things to think about. If you don't know what I'm talking about, the intervals, perfect 4th, major 3rd, minor 3rd, etc., we got interval lessons on guitar tricks. Okay, and one of our instructors, Christopher Slagle, does really great job of teaching those, doing a little ear training with them to help you recognize what they sound like. See, that's another aspect to playing guitars, not just playing the stuff, but try to recognize the sound, like be able to recognize the sound of a major chord, of a minor chord. Minors always sound a little darker, maybe a dominant 7. Okay, maybe a diminished. The unique sounds of diminished, okay? Those different colors, all right? It's good to be able to recognize the sound of those. And your ear is going to get sharper. We're playing music, everybody. We can't touch it. We can't see the notes. I mean, we can see the tablature or the little black dots written in the music staff, but we can't literally touch the sounds that we're hearing. But our ear can pick them up. That's the thing that's picking it up for us. So it would behoove you and me and every other guitar player that's watching this to sharpen our ears, try to listen, recognize what it sounds like to play a perfect fourth. Like the first 2 notes of example 3, the open second string, open first, that's a perfect fourth. In other words, the B note to the E, that's 4 letters apart, B, C, D, E. And that interval of a perfect fourth always sounds to me like the first 2 notes of Here Comes the Bride. Okay? No matter what key you do a perfect fourth in, it's always going to sound, you know? Okay. Major thirds always sound the second pair of notes. See, when you hear that double stop, a major third double stop. Okay, the first 2 notes played separately always sounds like When the Saints Go Marching In. No matter what key you do a major third in, it's always going to sound like When the Saints Go Marching In. So it helps us to sharpen your ear. We got ear training lessons on guitar tricks, okay? Let me read these comments. I see a few other folks have been writing stuff down. Let me just make sure I'm not skipping anyone. So Dave, that kind of long-winded answer to your question with example 1. It's not A major, it's E major, okay? Just because the high note is on the first string doesn't mean that's the key we're in. Actually, the second string is the major scale root note, as I went over a little bit ago. Okay, cool. Barry's saying, am I correct? The open B and open E double stop is not thirds. Barry, you're absolutely right. Yep. The open. Oh, you know what? My text for example 3 says Malaguena with double stops in thirds. Bingo, Barry, you busted me. That's a typo on my part. I meant to say after that, mostly, or in there, mostly thirds, okay? The very first 2 notes is, I just kind of went over that before I even saw your question, but that's a perfect fourth. Then the next interval is a major third, and then the 7-9, that's a minor third. Minor thirds always sound like the first 2 notes of Smoke on the Water or the first 2 chords in Iron Man. You know, or Smoke on the Water. Even though it's in a wrong key, it always has that sound. You play it in the right key. They're playing intervals of a fourth, but the distance between, that's a minor third. Or Iron Man is playing power chords. Tony Iommi's playing power chords, but he's moving the first 2 chords. Like when Ozzy starts singing, Tony, instead of playing a power chord, he just plays the root note of the power chords, and then the first 2 as a minor third. Okay, right off the top. What else do we got in example 3? We got perfect fourth, major third, minor third. Okay, 2 of those. And then for the F, that's also a major third interval. Then up to the 8-10, that's a minor third. Barry, you're right. I'm glad you caught that. Then the 7-8 is a major third. 5-6 is a major third. The 5-3 at the last bar, minor third. The 1-3 is also a minor third. And then we end on a perfect fourth. Okay, cool. So good eye for catching that, Barry. Glad you did that. See, that's what's good about the live lessons. If this was a pre-recorded lesson and I just happen to have a typo, you would see that and you wouldn't have someone to answer it. You wouldn't know if, unless you did know your theory and your notes and your intervals, then you would know that obviously it was a typo. But I'd hate for a student to think, oh, the first 2 notes of example 3 is a major third. Well, if you're watching this video and not just getting the tabs off and not paying attention to what the teacher's saying, you'll see that it's a typo on my part. I apologize. Barry, thank you. All right, Russ saying, are dyads close in terms of double stops, or is there some other string relationship that is occurring? Yeah, dyad just means two notes. So it's like triads. You know, we've heard of the triads before. In fact, I might do some YouTube lessons on those too in the future. But triads, it's tri means 3. So it's a 3-note chord. Okay. Dyad, di means 2. Okay, so a dyad is 2 notes at the same time. So all that we're doing here, you could call these dyads. That's another word for the same thing, Russ. So that's exactly it. And the dyads, they don't have to be, or the double stops, they don't have to be on adjacent strings. Like we're going to see in example 4 and 5, they're skipping a string. Like example 4, we've got notes on the first and the third string, nothing on the second. Okay, it's still a double stop. Okay, we'll get into that in one sec. But yeah, they're on the first and third string, and they're a bigger, wider interval. We'll talk about that in a sec too. So good question. And then Barry's back with another one. Why is it called a perfect fourth instead of a major fourth? All right, Barry, that's another good question. All right, well, when you're doing the intervals, any interval that says major also has a minor version that's 1 fret less, okay? So like a major second interval is the root to the second note of the major scale. If I do a G major scale, okay, the root to the second note, that's called a major second interval. Okay, any major intervals all imply that there's also a minor version, which is 1 fret less. So if I go instead of frets 3 to 5, or the G to the A, if I go G to A flat, or in other words, the 3rd to the 4th fret, that's called a minor second. That's Jaws. Okay. If we go to the 3rd note of the G major scale, that's called a major 3rd interval. It's 2 whole steps apart. If you put it on one string, you can literally see that it's 2 whole steps. Okay, that's why if you ever take music theory classes in school or college, they usually have us do it on piano. Although when I was going to my music school in Hollywood, California, we didn't do piano. We did everything, all of our theory we did on guitar, which I think that's better for us. If we're studying to be good on our chosen instrument, it would behoove us to learn the theory on the instrument. Even though the piano's laid out linearly and it's easy to see the theory, but the drawback with that, and I've got some students that play piano and guitar, and they know the theory on piano, but they don't know where it is and how it lays out on the guitar. So to me, that's kind of disjointed. If you know the theory and you think about it on piano, I mean, that's great that you know that much. But if you don't know how it applies and how it looks on your guitar, then all we're doing is just putting our fingers in spots and have no idea what intervals we're playing or etc. Okay. So I encourage everybody, especially if any of us watching here are piano players, do it on guitar. And anyone that's not a piano player, do it on guitar. Do all your theory on guitar. All right. Try to see what those, a major third always looks like that. The major third is always one string down, one fret back. Okay. Unless you're on the second and third string, then the major third's actually in the same fret. The only thing screwy with that messes with us is that the third string, you know, when you're tuning your guitar, I'm sure everybody, when we first learned to play guitar, you learn to tune your guitar in the 5th fret, right? Except the third string, you go to the 4th fret. So that makes playing chords and a lot of stuff easier on guitar, but it kind of jacks up our intervals when we start doing shapes like this. We can't just take that little major third shape and apply that to every pair of strings. It works for 6 and 5, 5 and 4, that's a major third. 4 and 3, that's a major third. But strings 3 and 2, you got to play the same fret. Okay, that's a major third, but I'm just playing it with the 2 notes in the same fret. And then on the 1st and 2nd string, you're back to that same shape that's 1 fret back. Okay. Another way to think about it, everybody, and Barry, we're going to answer your question there. I'm taking a long road here because I want you to understand why it's called that. Try to see the intervals on the same string, because doing them on one string is seeing it the way we would do on piano. Piano's linear. All right. Our guitars are like 6 little pianos. And on most of our electric guitars, we go to about 22 frets. So we're 24 frets would be 2 octaves. So if you happen to have like an Ibanez or Charvel, something that has 24 frets, you actually got 6 little 2-octave pianos that overlap. Okay. And what I mean by overlap is, you know, that like on the 5th fret, 5th string, if I went frets 5, 6, 7, 8, okay, I can play those same notes on the 5th string, but open 1, 2, 3. So that's kind of cool in some ways, because we got several spots to play the same thing, gives us other options. All right. So all the major intervals, or Barry and everyone else, have a minor equivalent. So a major third is that. A minor third would be, sounds darker. All the minor intervals sound darker compared to their major relative. Okay. Then we're up to the 4th. The 4th and the 5th don't have a major minor sound to them. You're not going to have a major or a minor 4th. Okay. It's just a 4th. If I went 1 back, that's not a minor 4th. That's a major 3rd right there. Okay. And we just learned that. Okay. And then a perfect 5th is your power chord shape. We're not going to have a major 5th or a minor 5th. We will have a flat 5, or in other words, a sharp 4. That's the blues note. Okay. But we don't call it a major 4th or a minor 5th. We call it a sharp 4 and a flat 5. Okay. And you won't have a sharp 5 necessarily, although in jazz sometimes we do call it a sharp 5. But for our purposes here, we're not going to call it sharp 5. It's the minor 6. All right. So watch this. If I go up to the major 6, okay, major 6, root to major 6 always sounds like the first 2 notes of the NBC theme. Okay. Now, if I flat that 6, it sounds pretty dark, right? Compared to the major 6. Okay. So all the minor intervals are not in the major scale. And then we got the seventh note. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Sounds really bright. Okay. And then you flat that, you got a minor 7 or a flat 7. Okay. So the fourth and the fifth are the intervals that don't have a minor or major quality. That's why we call them perfect fourth and a perfect fifth. So, Barry, are you a Guitar Tricks member? If you are, I encourage you to search intervals in the search bar at the top of Guitar Tricks website. Yes, you are. All right, Barry. Thanks. Cool, man. Type in intervals and maybe even type in ear training, because when our Christopher Schlegel's the instructor that teaches those, he'll go over the stuff and explain it to you. And if you do the ear training with intervals, that's kind of what I'm talking about, using like little jingles, cartoon themes, TV show themes, nursery school rhymes, something that we've heard a million times that we can associate with each interval. Okay. And then that'll help your ear and then also help you understand it. And then play the stuff on guitar. Like when I do my one-on-one lessons with students, I have them check out Christopher's lessons on Guitar Tricks for ear training with the intervals. And I also have my own sheet with the intervals written out on neck diagrams. And I have the students not just play them, or I don't just duck my guitar down and play the interval and have them use their ear to figure it out, but I have them play the intervals too. So we got to know what they look like and they sound like on the guitar. Okay. All that stuff. It's not as fun necessarily as sitting there and working on Dream On or some other fun songs, or playing solos and that kind of stuff, playing over backing tracks, but it's part of the guitar playing journey. You got to do a little bit that's not really playing. Like when I was transcribing earlier tonight, I'm working on that Spanish guitar stuff. I was listening to Al Di Meola and Paco de Lucia doing their Mediterranean Sundance song. And there's some really fast, shreddy licks. They do them on acoustic guitar and nylon string guitars. But to get those licks, I slow it down to about 50% on YouTube. And then I can hear the details of the notes and I make sure I'm getting the right notes, the right feel. And then I work with speeding it up. Well, when I transcribe stuff, it's not necessarily the most funnest thing in the world because I'm not really playing, but I'm listening to the note and trying to find where they are and figure out what's the best way, and then watching the video and seeing where his fingers are in the neck. Okay. So it's not really as much play time, but the end result is that I'm going to have a good little, and I'll be learning some of his stuff. And then after I get done transcribing it, then comes the fun part, the practice. Working with the metronome, working with the backing track, trying to play along with them at the slower speed until I can do it good. And then I try to increase the speed. So long-winded answer for you, Barry, but perfect fourth, major fourth is not the right term. We want to call it a perfect fourth. So there you go, Barry and Russ. Cool. All right. So let's knock out. We're just talking away here, but this stuff is good. I'll bet most of you students or you folks watching don't know much about what I'm talking about. But what I'm trying to do is not bore you, but pique your interest that you go and search it out, find that information. If you're not a Guitar Tricks member, you can always join the site. They got great deals going different times. I'm not sure what deal they have going now, but check them out, guitartricks.com. I know they got a money back guarantee. So it's worth the investment. Okay. Which is, if you totally don't like it, you get your money back. It's no investment, but I doubt you'll be unhappy. They've got a lot of songs and a lot of lessons. Okay. So example 4, let's knock this out. So we got enough time. Yeah. We got about 15 more minutes. Okay. Example 4 and 5 is using intervals of a 6. Well, I just got done talking about the intervals major 6 and minor 6. So example 4 is using major and minor 6s. And so does example 5. I put, looks like example 5. Yeah, I just made up a little 12-bar blues using intervals of a 6. So example 5 is a nice musical etude that we're going to try in a sec. But for right now, let's check out example 4. So we're going to start on strings 1 and 3. Now, David, one of the students earlier, I think he had to cut out, but he was confused about example 1, thinking it was in A major, but it's actually in E major. Now, example 4 is in A major. And if you look at the key signature here, remember I mentioned at the top of the lesson, 4 sharps indicates the key of E major. So all these are in E major. Yeah, actually, you know what? On Malaguena, another typo. I should have just put no key, the key signature of C major, right? And then I would just have the G's go sharp. So my bad on that, but the tablature is right. And the notes up top, if you know how to read music, the notes up there are correct. But down here on example 4, we're in E major. I'm sorry, A major is 3 sharps. So the key signature for A major is 3 sharps. And then what we're going to do is this little example 4 is just going up the scale diatonically, which means I'm going to play the A major scale on the first string. Sounds like do, re, mi, right? If you can play the notes just with your first finger, right? Doesn't matter. Try it backwards. Hear how it sounds like do, re, mi? Okay. Now what we're doing is we're going to harmonize a sixth below that on the third string using the same notes, but each one is a sixth lower. So this is going to wrap your head around this. If the high note is A, okay, we're going to count backwards 6 notes to get to, okay, does anyone know what that note is? Third string, 6th fret, okay? The notes for the A major scale, if you write these down, you can just look at your sheet. I would write out 2 octaves of A major. It goes A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, A, and then just keep it going. A, B, C, A, B, C sharp, D, E, F sharp, G sharp, and then A. And then grab that high A or the middle A, count backwards 6 letters, and then, or you can do it on your fingers. Go A, then I'm going to go back 6, right? So A, before A is G sharp, before G sharp is F sharp, before F sharp is E, that's the 4th note back. Before E is D, that's the 5th note back. And before D is C sharp. C sharp's the 6th note back. That's what the note is on the 3rd string, 6th fret, is C sharp. There you go, Barry. Awesome. Got some sharp folks here. Good deal. Okay. And then that interval is a minor 6. I think, to me, that sounds like the beginning of the love story theme. Okay. Then the next intervals we're going to do is move your middle finger up to the 7 on the 3rd string and then 7 on the 1st string. Okay. That's a major 6. That sounds like NBC. Okay, but don't worry about the NBC thing. Just get those 2 notes. The high note is B. 6 letters back from B is D. Okay. Then we're up to the C sharp. 6 back from that is your E. Okay. So it sounds like the major scale harmonized. In this case, we're harmonized in intervals of 6, major, minor 6. Now we'll try it backwards. It's not written backwards, but you just literally read the music backwards. Okay, we've heard intervals like that in the blues. They do that a lot in the turnarounds. Okay, that little turnaround, intervals major 6, minor 6. Okay, how about Let It Be from the Beatles? the right after the second chorus, right before the guitar solo, you hear the keyboards goes. Repeat. That's one of our songs on guitar tricks. Anders does a great lesson on that. Okay. I think he plays the organ solo a little differently on the guitar, but for my students, I just show them, I have them do it with the intervals of a six, like I just played. Another good example is the Bon Jovi song, Wanted Dead or Alive. Let me clean up my guitar a little bit. I can do better than that. Here we go. Minor six, and then Richie Sambora's got the pedal point thing going. So again, we're back to that pedal point like I talked about with Dream On earlier tonight. The open fourth string. Minor six, major six, major six, minor six, major six, minor six. Okay, you get the idea. A lot of songs, I can keep going. A lot of country tunes do six. Okay. Maybe one of the students or someone watching here will remind me of a few others. Okay. Now let's get into the example 5, which is not really an exercise, but it sounds like a good little cool part to play over a blues in A. If you're familiar with Stormy Monday from the Allman Brothers, you know how they do that in the key of G? They go, those little sliding ideas are 6. Okay, so we're going to try play an example 5 here like this. Let me make sure I'm playing exactly what the tabs say for everybody. Okay, so we're following 12-bar blues in A, and we're just doing a slow, like A7 for 4 bars. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. One more time. 2, 3. D7, top of page 2. 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Back to A7. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. 2 bars at E. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. And back to the top. Now, I kind of simplified it extremely because usually if we're doing a slow blues, the second bar, I'll do a quick change to the D, the 4 chord, okay? And then on the last 4 bars, I won't just do 2 bars of E and 2 bars of A. I'll do 1 bar of E7, 3, and 1 bar of D7, 1 bar A7, and then ending on the 5 chord. E7. But the reason I simplified it is that we can connect it to our intervals of a 6 and make a good little illustration here. So if we play bar 1 and 2 at the bottom of page 1, we're starting with the 10th fret, 2nd string, 11 on the 4th, and then move that back 2 frets to the 8th fret on the 2nd and 9 on the 4th. Use fingers 1 and 2. And by the way, for anyone that's new, what fingers do you use? Well, the ones I suggest are the numbers written on the left side of the 2 black dots in the music staff. So you don't have to know how to read music, but everybody knows what numbers look like. If you look carefully, okay, there's a 1 and a 2. Those are the two fingers you want to use on that, on actually both of those first two chords. Those first two dyads or double stops, fingers 1 and 2. Now, a couple ways you can play that. You could either downstroke it. If you do that, make sure your ring finger is lightly touching the fingerprint part of your ring finger. Your middle finger. Sorry about that. Is touching the third string. So string 4 and 2 ring, and string 3 should be muted. We don't want the 3 to ring. So I got some students that say their fingers are too fat or chubby or too short and they can't do their chords cleanly. Well, when we're doing chords, it's important to be able to play them cleanly and accurately and keep each finger just on its respective string. But sometimes it actually is good benefit to let the fingers touch the neighboring strings. In a case like this, sometimes when we're playing riffs or lead guitar work, it's actually good to let part of your other fingers touch some of the neighboring strings so that we don't get extra string noise and just unwanted sounds coming out. So in this case, we actually do want to let the fingerprint of your middle finger lightly touch. See how I'm leaning it down? I'm not on the tippy tips like this, because then it won't sound good. I'm kind of like this. Watch. So all you hear is 4, 3 is muted, and 2. And sing with that. Option 2, everyone, is to hybrid pick that. And if you hybrid pick it, you don't have to worry about muting the third string. You pick the 4th string always with your pick, with a downstroke, and you pick the 2nd string with the middle finger or the ring finger. Okay, sometimes I use my middle, or sometimes I use my ring finger. Just depends on what mood I'm in. Okay, now if you're going to hybrid pick it, make sure that both notes are the same volume. We don't want to hear this. It's hard for me to play it wrong because I've been practicing it, playing it the right way. But you want to basically, your goal is to get both strings the same volume. Okay, same if you pick it. Make sure you're hitting both strings. Make sure you do not that, where you're not going to the 2nd string. Make sure you're hitting both strings. Okay, or pick it, hybrid pick. And then the next part of bar 1 there goes to the 7th fret on strings 4 and 2. You're going to use your middle finger all the way down. We're never going to come off of that string with the middle finger. Okay? And then move this pair of 7s back. So we start with 2 minor 6 intervals and then 2 major 6. Now the count goes like this: 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2, 3, 4, and let it ring for 4 beats. 3, 4 again. 1 and 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2. The top of page 2, D7. It's exactly the same thing, but on strings 3 and 1. The same exact shapes, just down a string, same fingers. 3, 4, and 1. We only do it one time, and then we go back to the A7. 2, 3, 2. And the E7, it's up at the 12 on the 1st string, 13 on the 3rd. And then we go to the 9th fret, 3rd and 1st string, and then back to the 7th fret. Okay, so we're going to go 1 and 2, 3, 4, and 1, 2, 3, and then back to the A7. 2, 3. So all together, see, you can hear that they fit the chords because the first note I'm playing, the first double stop, those 2 notes are in the A7 chord. It's the root note A and the 3rd, the major 3rd, the C sharp. Okay? A little bit, just do your homework. Get to know your notes on the fretboard. this is good. You know, I had to do it too. At some point, you just slowly start figuring out some of the notes. And after a while, just be patient, take your time, you'll get it. Okay. But you got to force yourself. You got to get uncomfortable if you're going to excel and get better on guitar. You got to sweat a little bit. Okay. And then these two notes, well, the high note is the G, that's the flat 7 of A7. And then the middle finger's on the B note. That's not in the chord, but it is the 9th of the chord. Okay, which actually sounds really cool as an extension. A lot of times in the blues, they do 9th chords a lot. It sounds really nice. And in this part, we're playing the root, the A, and then the F sharp is the major 6. Well, that's not in the chord, but major 6s always sound great. That's a super cool note that B.B. King likes to play a lot. Okay, in his B.B. King blues box, the major 6 in there. And then we slide that back to the 5th fret in bar 1. Those two notes are in the chord. The E is the 5th, and then the G on the 4th string is the flat 7. So almost all these notes are in the chord, and the ones that aren't, the 9 and the 6, those actually sound really cool in the blues and rock, classic rock. So here's what it sounds like all together. And the analyzation, folks, for the D7 and E7, it's the same thing. That's the root major 3rd to the major 7, or the flat 7 and the 9 of D. The root and the major 6 and the flat 7 and the perfect 5th of D7. Okay? So we're going to go like this. I'll play it all through, and then I'm going to wrap up. We're almost done, folks. 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, 4, 3, 4 and 2, 3, 4, 3, 4 and 2, 3, E7, 4, 1 and 2, 3, 4 and 1, 2, 3, A7, 3, 4 and 1, 2. Now there is a repeat sign, but I'm not going to repeat it. I'm going to wrap the class up right now. But when you do end it, just come back to your A7 and give it a cap. All right, folks, been fun working with you on this double stop stuff. Hopefully I've raised a few eyebrows, piqued a little interest. Go search out your answers, all right? Try playing this stuff, incorporate it into your playing, and coolness. All right, Steve, awesome. Russ, appreciate it. Richard, yep. Next week, we're going to start more lead guitar techniques. Next week, we're going to do 3 weeks in a row on chicken picking, all right, which is pretty cool. I've done this before. I'm going to revisit it. I think it's something that you'll dig. A lot of country players do chicken picking a lot, but so does some rock players. Ace Frehley and Kiss, the old Kiss, does a little chicken picking. I'll show you some of that stuff. Joe Walsh does it a little bit. It's very cool. It's a cool technique. I'm going to give you some various ideas. So join me next week, and we're actually going to do 3 weeks on the chicken picking. I've got a lot of curriculum for that. So cool. All right. Craig, we'll see you soon, man, at one of your lessons. Richard, have a good night. Russ, cool. Steve, cool. Zane, appreciate it, Zane. Thank you very much. Barry, all right. Everyone have a good night. Keep those fingers flying and don't give up, all right? Just be patient with yourself. Just keep practicing. Find fun stuff to work on. Try to increase your knowledge of your fretboard. Get to know your notes and stick with it. All right, we'll see you next Wednesday. Good night. See ya. Bye.